everyone. I hope everyone has had a good week so far. Let's today get started about discussing how sustainable we are. So, in short, sustainability looks to protect our natural environment, human and ecological health, while driving innovation and not compromising our way of life. I have my three very able friends who are here, and let's get started. So we have CK from Akulmark Technologies, we have Neville from Mindfit, and we have Kanchan from Akulmark as well. My name is Farida, and I'm the CEO of Career Zoom. Over to you, CK.
Good morning, everyone. And today we are discussing about the business sustainability post-COVID. And I think it's a very debatable subject. So we thought that we will debate it out. What is important for business? What is not? I personally feel the behavioral waste. I am picking your subject, Neville. There is a lot of behavioral waste which needs to be undone, and new skills need to be developed by all organizations if they want to succeed post COVID. And adherence to digital, uh, acumen, and also promoting their teams to use digital platform as much as possible. So, Neville, what do you feel about this?
Well, as we coined behavioural waste, it really was with a sustainable theme around it. So if you imagine what is waste, well, waste is garbage, and frankly, we don't really know what to do with garbage. We just sort of package it up and throw it on a landfill or burn it. Neither of which are very environmentally friendly, but it comes from a thought process. So now, I mean, in the UK, we have recycling. So rather than one bin and one garbage truck that comes around every week, we have 5 bins and 5 different garbage trucks that come around every week. And in those bins, we've put paper and cardboard. In another bin, we have plastic, tin, and glass. And in another bin, we have all of our food waste. And in another bin, we have general home waste. In other words, that which can't go into any of the others. And then we have another one, which is picked up every fortnight, which is garden waste. So all those grass clippings and tree cuttings and goodness knows what else that you need to get rid of. Now, the interesting thing is what happens to them. So we've now got the thought process of putting them in different bins, which is great. But what happens to them after that? Well, all the plastic goes to China, or used to go to China, and they used to burn it or put it into landfill. So all we've done is we've just exported a problem. So is that sustainable? So I think the thing we need to think of as an organization is, what is really sustainable? What can we do in our organization, in our everyday life, that makes ourselves sustainable, which might be eating well, by the way, and getting good exercise, but also makes the environment sustainable. So this is a huge topic. So, but fundamentally, it starts, as Chandra said, it starts with behavioural waste, which is the 5 inches between these things, and we've all got them, ears, holds our glasses on. So so there you go. That's my 2 pence to throw into the pool today. Who's next?
Yeah, I think when we talk about sustainability and when we are talking about the organizational culture, that also plays a vital role in sustainability, because the business affect environment as well as the society. That's why we take up people from different cultural background. But the question is, then when companies and organization hire these people, are they willing to give some training of cross-cultural behavioral set, so that they can merge in the organization seamlessly? A part of this, uh, we require to have a good business, and we require the sustainability clause for a progressive society as well as progressive environment. So I think it's also deals with the ethics of business ethics, and of course the morality of a personal morality. And when we combine both that, then the results are awesome. And I think organizations and companies should look into this, which is very, very highly recommended as far me is concerned.
Yeah, it's excellent. I mean, look, if we look into the backgrounds, even look where we are. I mean, who's got a sustainable light? Are we all into LEDs, or we are into old money, the old filament lights? I mean,
Well,
in the UK, they've legislated so you cannot any longer have an old filament light for 5 years now.
Yes.
So I just want to bring into the subject that governments, communities are legislating some of this, and hopefully helping us to think differently.
I think I'll just kind of pick up the thread from here. When we talk about sustainability, we talk about meeting the needs of our future without compromising the ability of future generations to meet their needs. That is sustainability, as you know, Investopedia actually defines it. The concept of sustainability is composed of three pillars: economic, environmental, and social. Informally, we call it profits, planet, and people. Yeah. It's very difficult to break it down into, each of these silos because they are so interrelated. Um, One of the things that I kind of read very recently was basically get your profits by attraction rather than coercion. So, for instance, there are so many people who dream of an American life. This is a little bit on the tangent, but it's funny, but it's so true. People dream of an American life, the American dream. It's not because of the other things. There are a lot of things, but one thing which basically works on everyone's mind is the Hollywood movies. Because when you actually, when the planet is attacked by aliens, the way that they position the whole thing is the White House is involved, all the decisions are made in the White House. The president is actually on their toes and makes all the decisions. So there is a drone which would go in. So the way that, for instance, Starbucks, my little girl keeps asking me, I want to go to a high school in America and I want to see the locker room, because that's the way it's kind of, gone into people's minds. So sustainability, attraction rather than, coercion is how the way should be forward. And this is something that every other economy needs to actually learn as to how to use the medium which appeals to a larger mass to sustain the future. So this was a little bit on a tangent, little bit funny, but I just thought it's important to bring this up as well, because sustainability is not about today. Today you are fantastic at sales and your business is doing very, very well, but have you as an organization built the pathway to future where you can sustain and grow, or something better will come in and it will fizzle out? CK, I ask you, because you deal with so many people, you speak to so many leaders. Do you come across this particular subject with the people that you speak with, and does the audience actually focus on sustainability as something which is to be looked at very, very seriously, or it's not very evident?
to be very frank with you, you are absolutely on the dot. It is not at all in people's mind. They're not even focused on this aspect. And in spite of suffering, people are losing job, but they don't want to change their ways. And that is a reality, because as you rightly said, I talk to at least one leader from the industry per day, sometimes two and sometimes three years also. So I talk to a lot of people. I interview them. I ask them a lot of questions. but nobody talks about how they solve the issue, specifically with regard to post-COVID, where everybody is suffering. The GDP of the countries are suffering, but nobody is
Yes.
making strategies uh, to make sure what is the next path. They're just waiting. They're thinking that, oh, hey, COVID will go away after some time, and then the things will fall back to normal. Nobody is planning. So let me tell something specific, which is regard to our company, which is Akul Mac. Now, we are not a very old company. We are 3 years old company, and we specialize in business consulting. And we had a lot of clients last year until 2019 December, and we are a small company. Now, even though we had a lot of clients, but then after COVID, when people are not buying things, then the clients don't need to sell anything. If nobody's buying anything, nobody's selling also. So demand and supply formula. So with regard to our business consulting business, it's slowly slided downwards. It took a downward dip. So what we did, we were concerned about sustainability of our own self because we are a small company and we had to sustain in the changing environment. So we changed our ways. We embraced the digital era very early. In fact, even before the lockdown was announced, we were actually evaluating virtual office platforms. And there is one platform from LA and there's one from Israel. And it was piece of cake for us to migrate to digital platform, even in the month of February to 2020. So we were very friendly with the new ways, and we didn't lose much because we were concerned about just simple aspect of sustainability. There could be many other aspects. There could be for large corporation, there could be 1,000 other issues which they need to focus on and bring in their strategy. Uh, so this is what I feel. Kanchan, you can share your thoughts.
Yeah, you were talking about the about how we have overcome the problems when this COVID started. But I also want to tell all our panelists that there was not an easy cake because we had to do a lot of brainstorming. But when we are talking about sustainability, not for Akulmek, but other companies who are coming bit late in the market, or they are still in that thought process that maybe after one point of time things will be okay. So for them it is a difficult path ahead because most of the people have left the company. And why not only they want to go home sometimes, and there are some other issues, personal issues also with the employees. A part of this companies are not willing to pay also. Now when we talk about sustainability, I think now companies should come out with some robust planning and functionality to get employees retained in the company. And I think that is also high time in education also, when we are especially in colleges, and they are doing some MBAs or business management courses. They should also have one topic of how to deal with crisis, or how to deal with companies, and how to be part of the company in crisis. You see what happens. And when we talk about customer loyalties, when we go into market, we also have to be very much aware about the loyalty towards the company when an employee is working. What do you say, Farida?
Okay. Couple of things here. I think 2020 is a brilliant rule because we all know what went wrong when we look back. Yeah, when we look in the past. Secondly, it's like a contract. Nobody reads a contract until something goes wrong. So it's same with the current situation. Now this has happened. I'm very confident that the business courses will include, paradigms within the sustainability model, etc. Some brilliant startups could not sustain the pandemic. One of the startups which I was personally looking out for and I was gutting for them in Finland, NeoSmart Health, which is basically artificial intelligence in being able to detect diseases which a person might get as early as 10 years before, the person is actually in a position to get them, so it can actually be reversed. They couldn't survive the pandemic, and that kind of really hurt me. But if a company like that, which is small, which has raised respectable amount of funding, they could not sustain this, what could they have done differently? So my personal opinion is that as a company, when you start, because sustainability, dealing with crisis is not an afterthought, it's not a reaction, it has to be something that's built into your work plan, it has to be built into your business plan. The training to be able to change gears needs to be from before. It's like, it needs to be ingrained right from your education, when you actually start a company, when you start adapting, because afterthoughts are beautiful. 20 years back, if I did this, I would have done this. But what about now? So I'll give you an example. I started Career Zoom. I launched Career Zoom with your platform only. So some of the viewers who watch us regularly, they know about it. Career Zoom is not very old. It's about 3 months old. One of the things that I realized very early on in the in the process was that it was going to be difficult to start commercializing all the data that the company has. So I opened up our talent pool pro bono for clients who do not want to pay or who can't afford to pay right now. And that will not give me revenue immediately, and that's not what I want. But it is about sustainability, because once this model is well established, at some stage I can start commercializing it. So this is one of the strategy. Maybe it will help someone that everything, if you cannot commercialize something, at least keep it running, because then there is interest in that particular thing and it keeps going on and on. Yeah, because if you stop it completely, that I'm not able to sustain this, then it is again going back to square one, starting from scratch and building that entire IP again. So this is one such example, Kanchan. I'm sure Neville has something to add to it. Neville, what is your thought?
Well, what going through my mind at the moment is this word of training. You know, we go to school, we're educated, we go to university, we get professional qualifications. You know, I'm an accountant, so I've been a CFO. And there was a joke that was going around during one of the first recessions, before you were born, Farida, but back in sort of 92, one of the big recessions that hit the UK. And the CFOs did what every CFO does. They look at the budget and they cut. And they see what isn't sustainable. The word sustainability wasn't really used in those days, but they see what isn't sustainable. And the first thing they cut is training. And the interesting thing is, and here's the joke, okay? The CFO says, well, we need to cut training because if we have the training budget so high, they're going to leave. We're going to train them to be better than they currently are, and they'll leave. And the CEO turns around and says, well, what if we don't train them and they stay? Now,
Yes.
the thing is, but that's what we're locked into. So we need to be looking at the sustainability around not just the training arena. And for anyone listening, there are sustainable development goals, SDGs they call them. So if you look at the hashtag SDG, and you'll see hashtag SDG 2030 a lot of the times, because by 2030 there are particular targets that United Nations set out where we would have achieved. One of which is recycling materials, another one is education, another one is poverty. So these are real core deliverables, if you like, and there are 17 of them. So you can just literally go online and you will find one that's relevant to your particular industry, to your particular classification. And it gives you literally the whole plan of how you can go and do it, which is great. But as I have a laugh with my friends from the United Nations, this is nothing to do with the United Nations. This is about us as individuals on the planet. And the problem with it is they've got 17 brilliantly defined SDGs, but there's one missing, and it's SDG 0. And I'll give you a clue. It's the word behind me. Because if you don't have the right attitude, you're never going to do anything. If you don't think that planning is for you, guess what? You will fail. And it is, we need to go back down to basics here. You know, yes, we need to have the 3 Ps, you know, profit, planet, and people. But fundamentally, if people don't think how to make profits sustainable, how I'm walking on this planet and making it so that someone can walk in my footsteps, knowing that I've not damaged the planet. And the other thing is, and here's the irony, I spent 30 years in international oil and gas. I mean, I am Satan. I'm the devil, really, because we were an organization, and we had many organizations around the world, and we were taking our natural resources out of the ground. And the thing is, we can't replace these natural resources, but we can change them. So, sunlight, we all know about solar energy. Water power, we all know about water power. Hydroelectric power has been around for 50 or 60 years.
Take up few new things, new way of thinking. I think that will always harm. So it's better companies and as well as individuals should come out with new, think out of the box and come out more relevant support to the companies and the society. So that makes a lot of difference in the thinking process and of course in working process. What do you say, Chandrakant?
Well, let me throw another example, because last time I threw example of my own company. Let's look at the automobile industry, because Naval was mentioning about the oil and gas, and one of the outcome of oil and gas is the automobile transportation industry. So what is happening? The oil producing companies are giving a barrel for free, and they say that, hey, different countries come and buy the petroleum, raw petroleum from me. I will give you $30 along with a barrel. So that is a sweet deal, you know. You're getting free petroleum, and you're on top of it, you're getting $30 per barrel. But the situation is that no countries are buying any petroleum. So I think the countries which are producing oil and gas, what is the sustainability model? They never saw this day will come when the petroleum will not be required by any country, even though they have a need. I mean, they still have a lot of vehicles, but nobody's buying because nobody's consuming any petroleum. So they should have thought about something. And you mentioned, Neville, the solar power. So all these oil producing companies have vast areas with a lot of sun. They could have planned the whole thing much ahead, because they are producing the energy of the world. And why not concentrate on solar power? Why they went buying very expensive cars and change them every 3 months? They could have used that money in a much more better way if they had this thing in mind. So similarly,
it's interesting. It's interesting you mentioned in 1992, I addressed an international group of very senior oil people, and interestingly enough, my presentation was about where do we go from here. And at the end of it, I just said, what if every oil company around the world, irrespective who they were, whether it was a state oil company or a small oil company, what if everyone donated and worked in a joint venture 1% of their net profit, and they put it into a pot, and all of the oil industry component, all of the industry companies could benefit from it and looked at alternative energy. You could have heard a pin drop. It was almost like I was saying, this is heresy. You know, shoot this guy. Don't ever employ him, because he's actually saying it's the demise of the oil and gas. And the point is, I've just given a presentation which basically said we spend fortunes trying to maintain our oil and gas supply. The interesting thing is, although there are many big pools of energy under the ground that we've not found yet, and they will be there, you know, the point is, if we just spent our time looking for alternatives, knowing that wherever we find these big pools of oil and gas, because that's what they are, they're reservoirs under the Earth's crust, wherever we find them will be really expensive to extract. They'll be miles down into the Earth's core. They'll be underneath the Arctic Circle or underneath the Antarctic Circle, where you can't put a drilling rig, so you're going to have to drill from miles and miles and miles away. And the point is, technology, even then, was saying we can do that. So, but their mindset was, this guy's talking nuts. You know, we're only going to be here for 20 years, so I'm just going to protect my little chief executive arena, and then I'm going to go and take my pension. But what we need is visionaries. And unfortunately, nobody listened to me at the time. They thought I was nuts, frankly. But if we'd have had, you know, the whole oil industry works and keeps oil down at a cheap level, oil and gas at a cheap level, because there's this word joint venture. People joint venture together. So they share best practices, they share all of the real in-depth technologies around the world. So there isn't an oil company in the world that doesn't know what anyone else is doing. I mean, that is pretty unique. I mean, you can't say that about Microsoft or Google or any other organization out there. So if we could have just utilized that joint venture nature, and here's an opportunity for small businesses: work together, collaborate. It is actually one of the Sustainable Development Goals. They actually mention this word collaboration, which is amazing. So if we could collaborate together, imagine what your industry would look like. So these are real simple things we can do, but you've got to change your attitude, not just to your business, but to your competition. See your competition as collaboration. You know, Farida was mentioning, you know, the models are changing. You can't just charge things now, because not only people can't afford it because of the COVID arena, but they're scared. But that's why we've got friends. You know, when we're scared, we hold someone's hand, and they hold someone's hand, and they hold someone's hand. We can do that in business. And we're just going to get back to the grassroots here of how are we going to work and succeed together, not as individuals, but as together. So sorry, I've thrown that little bomb in as usual, because I think we just miss some basics, and people miss the basics out there because they're always looking for the 1,000% improvement, where they should just look for the 1%.
So let me take this forward. You know, the sustainability word is so important for any business and also for individual. And as Neville said rightly, the collaboration. I think the key message that we want to give today is that collaboration is the mantra for success, especially for the SMEs. And because, you know, there is a limit to what each company can do individually, but if they 4 or 5 companies pool their skills and resources together, they can achieve, and they can probably compete with large corporations also, in terms of quality, in terms of speed of delivery, in terms of value for money, etc. So I think that is where the good message that we would like to give. And Neville already said that he threw a bomb in it, but I think the collaboration is one of the subject that is important for everyone today.
I'll take this.